start with a practice, and we're going to be standing and doing a little movement. So if this doesn't work for where you're setting up right now, that's totally fine. You can just do the breath practice. And if you have any injuries or anything going on with your body so that this movement doesn't feel good, then feel free to, again, just do the breath and skip the movement or modify it so that if it works for you. So I'm going to invite everyone to stand up, place both feet firmly on the floor. And we're going to do a quick practice to just clear our energy and help us arrive and be more present here together. We're going to inhale in 3 parts through the nose. So 3 inhales and then 1 long exhale through the mouth. And the movement's going to go like this. Inhale, bring the arms up in front of you. Second inhale, arms out to the side. Third inhale, arms go all the way up. And then bend the knees and exhale. And let your body just fall. Let's do it again. Inhale up, inhale out, inhale up, and bend the knees, release. Inhale 1, 2 out, 3 up, release. Inhale up, out, up, release. Keep it going. Strong breath. And really see if you can hear your breath. With each breath, we're bringing in fresh energy, fresh oxygen. And with each exhale, we're clearing, we're letting go. Keep it going. Two more. Make it your deepest, most powerful breath yet. Last one. And then bend your knees and slowly, slowly roll your way up to stand. Find one steady point to gaze at. Feel your feet rooting into the earth. You can place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and take deep, slow breaths in and out through your nose. And if you feel a little lightheaded or even slightly dizzy, that's totally normal. It's just your body adjusting to different oxygen and CO2 levels. So we can help regulate that by taking nice, slow, deep breaths in and out through the nose. And as we breathe here, see if you can breathe deep into the belly first, feeling the belly expand first, then the lower lungs, then the upper chest, and exhaling from the upper chest, then the lungs, and then the belly. So breathing deep into the belly, filling the lower lungs, then the upper lungs, exhaling from the upper chest, the lower lungs, and the belly, feeling this breath like a deep, slow wave. And this is a really steady, stabilizing breath. Slow and deep, wave-like, starting in the belly, moving up into the chest, and releasing from the chest and into the belly. And feel your hands on your body supporting you. It's also a signal that we can send to our nervous system through our hands that we're safe, we're held, we have ourselves. Beautiful. And from this place of connection, continue with this breath. And I'd love to invite you to reflect on what brought you here today, what you're hoping to get out of this experience. When you feel connected with that, take a few deep breaths to really breathe it in. Feel that sense of purpose, that sense of intention. And when you feel ready, you can release your hands, maybe take some gentle stretches of your neck, rolls of the shoulders, maybe a little twist or a hip circle, anything your body is calling for. And you can slowly, gradually make your way down to sit. So I'd love to hear a bit more about your intentions. And this is supposed to say type of one in the chat. If you're here because you want to get a little bit of relief from stress and overwhelm. Cool. Always, yes. We all need it these days. And type it too in the chat if you're here because you're ready to break free from coping strategies that don't feel truly nourishing. Maybe it's scrolling, overeating, distracting yourself in various ways. Yeah, I feel you. And type a 3 in the chat if you want to meet change, chaos, and uncertainty, of which there is infinite amounts in the world right now with more ease and more clarity. Beautiful. I'm seeing a lot of numbers, which is a good sign you're in the right place. And if there are any other intentions that I didn't name that you want to give voice to, please write it in the chat as well. There's something really powerful about expressing that to the group. And I want to thank you first for being here because this is a really powerful moment. It is yesterday was the Lunar New Year, which is a really important holiday for me. My mom's Chinese Singaporean, and it's something I grew up celebrating. And also, like, no matter where you come from, what your culture is, if you go back far enough, your ancestors were living in alignment with nature, following the rhythms of the moon, the seasons, which was necessary for agriculture, for our very survival. And this Lunar New Year, this new moon that happened yesterday, it signals a really potent new beginning for us as individuals and us as a collective. And I really believe that we're at a turning point as a society where we have the opportunity to really transform some deeply ingrained patterns. And that starts with ourselves and the way that we show up in our own daily life. So I'm seeing in the chat that you're also here to feel more grounded in your body, to regulate your nervous system, to feel more empowered. And these are all definitely things that we're going to get into today. This is a 90-minute class. It will end at around 1:30. It's in 3 parts. The first section, I'm going to give you the frame, which is like the context that will ground what we're doing. The second, I want to go into some of the most common pitfalls that I see when people are trying to regulate their nervous system, feel more empowered, feel better able to navigate clarity and let go of coping mechanisms. So we're going to get into some of the most common traps that we fall into and how to avoid them. And we're going to do some practices as part of that. So the practice that we started with was just a little taste. We're going to get deeper into breath and movement later as well. And finally, we'll end with some real strategies, actions that you can take to bring these concepts into your life and make them real. So I really want you all to feel inspired after leaving here today to actually go do something, to take something back into your life, and hopefully it makes a lasting difference to how you move through the world. A few agreements to make our time together as supportive as possible. One is bring a beginner's mind. I know that probably some of the information I'll share will be familiar to some of you, and it's always an opportunity to learn a new perspective or go deeper. So I just encourage you all to be open-minded, which I know many of you are always bringing that philosophy anyway, but just a reminder to bring that openness. And the second is listen with your full body. So really stay connected to your body, your breath. See if you can absorb the information, not just on an intellectual level, but on an energetic and somatic level as well. The third is participate actively, which means do the practices to the best of your ability. And if you're watching the recording, that applies to you too. I know it's so tempting when you're watching the replay of something like this to just skip through the practice parts, but those are where everything really gets integrated. And that's really what's going to give you the most out of this experience. And then there will be some times to have conversation a little bit as a group. So I invite you to speak from your own experience and just use I statements and keep it to what you've experienced and your own perspective rather than giving other people advice or anything like that. And finally, most importantly, take care of yourself. So if you need to run to the restroom, grab some water, modify some of the practice a little to make it feel better in your body, please do that, especially because we're in a virtual space. I'm really empowering you with the responsibility to adjust so that it feels good to you and so that you're able to take care of yourself. So, are we all able to agree to those agreements? If so, give me an emoji of your choice. Beautiful. And is there anything anyone else feels is important that they want to add as an agreement? Okay, great. So let's get into it. This is the frame, this is the overarching context that I want to ground this experience in, because so often I find that when we go do movement embodiment practices, we get right into it and might not necessarily have the philosophical structure to understand what's going on, what's happening in our body, and why it's important. And the first thing I want to do is share some definitions, because I called this class Becoming Unshakable. And I was actually a little nervous to use that name because I was worried that people might misinterpret it, because I want to be very clear about what we're not doing here. Becoming unshakable is not repressing your feelings, blocking out the world, faking positivity, pretending like everything's going great when it's not. It's not being perfectly calm and regulated all the time either, or spiritually bypassing real problems or never making any mistakes. We're not talking about um, becoming unshakable in terms of becoming rigid or I think you know what I'm talking about. So we're not doing that. What are we doing? Becoming unshakable, my perspective, like what I really mean when I invite you all into this practice. And I intentionally named it Becoming because it is an ongoing process of growth, of repatterning, of rebalancing. It's something that never ends. It's a lifelong journey that we continue to grow into and move into. And it's about building a strong foundation in your body, in your life, in your nervous system, so you can meet the challenges of life, uncertainty, chaos, unexpected events, emotions, grief with more capacity. And capacity means actually expanding our ability to feel. It doesn't mean blocking out our emotions, blocking out our feelings. It actually means increasing our sensitivity and allowing our sensitivity to become a gift without pushing us into collapse, spiraling, or reactivity. Becoming unshakable is also deepening our connection to our body's natural intuition and being able to hold ourselves through the inevitable mistakes and wobbles and discomfort that happens as we move through this journey of life. So if you are down to become unshakable or be in this process of becoming unshakable with me, give me another emoji of your choice. Sweet. Thank you. And I want to start by sharing a bit about me and my journey and why I'm even here offering this class. I started my career in a very different world, actually, as a strategy consultant. I moved to New York City to take a pretty intense corporate job, but I also had discovered yoga at age 19. And on the side, I was taking yoga teacher trainings. I was teaching at studios around the city before and after work on nights and weekends. And I had an amazing boyfriend and a whole community of Reiki practitioners that I was learning with. And on the outside, my life looked really fulfilling, like with a lot of purpose, a lot of meaning, a lot of community. But the reality was, it was all built on a very shaky foundation. I was smoking weed every day to deal with my anxiety. I had a lot of issues with food and body image. I hated my body. On the weekends, I was always binge drinking, doing drugs, being really out of alignment with my body and using caffeine all the time to just keep going to work the 60, 70-hour weeks and fit in all the other things that I had to do. And I was constantly sick with mild illnesses, whether it was sinus infections, yeast infections. Eventually, it all culminated in pretty intense burnout and chronic fatigue. But I just say this because so often we see people who on the outside it looks so perfect, but the foundations are really, really shaky. And everything in my life changed when I decided to take a break and go to India for 4 months to do some deep training in Kriya yoga, meditation, breath work. And it wasn't just the training and the deep immersion that was so powerful. When I came back, I integrated everything that I learned into a daily practice. And I started practicing every day, which even when I was a yoga teacher, I didn't have a daily practice. I would go to class a couple times a week, but I didn't have my own personal connection to my body and my breath in that deep way that I had started cultivating in around 2019. And through that daily practice, little by little, all these different shaky elements in my life started falling away almost on their own, and a whole new foundation was built. Now, full time, I teach breath work and Reiki. I mentor people in Kriya. Kriya means an action that leads to liberation. So the whole philosophy of this particular branch of yoga is about liberating yourself from old patterns. And I also still facilitate workshops and innovation sessions for teams, but overall, my life is built on a foundation that's much more sturdy. I've been sober for 7 years, which is a huge celebration for me and a huge, big cycle that I moved through. I haven't really drunk caffeine in 3 years. I'm the strongest, the healthiest I've ever been. And I've healed a lot of my relational wounds as well, and feel so blessed to be engaged to the love of my life, which is this beautiful man, Ariel, who did the graphic design of this workshop. So I have to give him a lot of props for that and for being a super supportive partner. But I mention this because I really believe that in these times where all of us are being called to step into leadership, to support the world in a positive way, to deal with all the challenges that are happening in our society, we need a strong foundation. We need a strong foundation in our body, our health, our relationships, our communities. We need to be supported in a lot of different ways. And this journey, when I present it this way, it sounds so nice and beautiful, but it's not like my life is totally perfect right now. I still have challenges. I still find myself scrolling on Instagram late at night, or reaching for food for comfort. Those are two patterns that still have hooks in me. But what's changed is I no longer am mired in shame and guilt, and I'm no longer beating myself up all the time. I've released a lot of that through the daily practice and liberated all that energy to actually focus on building the life that I want. And of course, it looks really nice when you put it on a slide like this, but actually, this is how it felt most of the time going through this journey over the last 7 years. And I'm sure some of you all can relate, where it feels like you're just swirling, going around in circles, the same patterns over and over again, doing all the workshops, all the therapy, online classes, reading all the books, journaling, going to ceremonies, doing all the things, desperately trying to fix myself and wondering what's wrong with me? Why can't I just get it together? Has anyone else felt this way? If so, give me a wave in the chat. Okay, thank you for helping me feel not alone. But I also want to say this because I think so often, especially even in the conscious communities that many of us are in, we can feel really alone, still feeling isolated, struggling to figure out the issues in our life. And one of my big missions is to relieve people of that sense of isolation and shame, and to realize that we're all actually going through the same process and we're all in it together. And so these are the philosophical frameworks, the principles that have supported me to shift out of that messy spiral and into something that looks more like a cycle, a natural cycle, which I feel like is really well represented by the new logo of Breath Connection. And this is all sourced from Eastern, non-Western, and Indigenous philosophies. And I'm really lucky that I grew up with a mom who was very proud of Chinese culture and Chinese philosophy, and I grew up with a lot of Taoist and Confucian principles. I also studied global development and East Asian studies in college and got to formally study a lot of these philosophies and indigenous cultures. And I've also encountered like a lot of these ideas over the course of my healing journey over the last decade or so. And a lot of these things are things I knew intellectually for a long time because I grew up with them or studied them in college. But it really took me a long time to actually integrate them in an embodied way. And I want to just lay them out here because I really believe that if we all like truly felt the truth of these in our bodies, it would completely change the way that we interact with ourselves and as a society. And the first principle is that nature is infinitely intelligent. That if you look at plants, animals, there's an incredible wisdom that's guiding everything. It's amazing that a tree just grows from a seed and it knows exactly what to do to make life. And whether you want to call it God or the divine or the universe, like pretty much every philosophy describes in some way that there's an animating force that is intelligent, that is guiding life. And when I really started to put my trust in that, a lot of things became a lot easier. And building on that, nature is always evolving, growing, and adapting. If you just look at the history of any ecosystem or the biological geological history of the earth, like it's constantly changing. There's constantly new species being created, mutations. We're always changing. There's no such thing as stagnancy. It's actually impossible to be stuck. We all may feel or have felt at times in our life, oh, I'm stuck in this loop, I'm stuck in this cycle, but it's actually not the design of the universe. The universe is always changing, always cycling, always moving through different phases, always growing, always adapting. And all is sacred and all is connected. All is sacred, meaning that even the things that we don't like about ourselves, even the things that we want to change, even the things that we find challenging about the world, as hard as it is to accept a lot of the time, there is some kind of purpose there. And everything's connected. So what we're experiencing, the challenges that we have as individuals, they're not isolated. It's not a burden for us to solve on our own. It's part of a bigger pattern that's playing out. And that just relieved so much pressure that I was putting on myself when I really started to feel into that. The fourth principle is breath is nature. Breath is our life force. Breath also is a cycle. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Every breath is different, but it's spiraling through the same architecture. And it's the same with the seasons, the cycles of the moon. Everything's moving forward in time, but it's following a pulse, it's following a rhythm. And when we connect with our breath will unfold a lot of the wisdom and a lot of the intelligence of nature that already lives in your body, that's encoded in your DNA, that's designed to change, to evolve. And so breath is like a key that connects you to this intelligence, this sacred intelligence. And finally, change happens little by little. If you look at the trees outside, you may not notice them growing one day to the next. But if you look at the difference between how everything looks now and in August, you're like, whoa, so much growth happened. And I think sometimes we forget this when it comes to our own personal lives. We feel stuck or stagnant, but actually a little bit every day, a little bit every day. When we look back months from now, we've made incredible leaps that just seemed unfathomable. So this is why I'm such a proponent of daily practice, of building your own connection to your breath and your body, and to giving that little bit of investment every day, little by little. So that's the framework that I'm moving from, that serves as the foundation for all of my philosophy, for what I found to really transform my own life and the lives of people who I work with. And this is the philosophy that we're going to be practicing in this upcoming program, Year of the Fire Horse. This year, as sure you are aware is going to be potent energy, a lot of intensity. So we're going to be doing a daily practice of breath, embodiment to stabilize our nervous system and really connect with this wisdom, this courage and clarity that already lives within us. That is part of nature's intelligence, if we just gave ourselves space and time to feel it. So throughout the course of this class, I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about this, and I'm also going to be sharing a lot of ways that you can connect with these principles, even if you don't choose to join this program also. So now I've given you the frame. I want to talk about some of the pitfalls. And when I talk about pitfalls, what I mean is the kind of mental traps that we fall into when we're trying to change a habit, trying to get out of a coping mechanism, trying to build our capacity, our resilience. And the first is, it's all my fault. I'm barely coping. Something must be wrong with me. I'm uniquely messed up. I've definitely felt that way. And it's my own individual problem to solve. And while we have these thoughts, I know there's another part of you that knows deep down that this society that we're living in is not designed for us to thrive. Our bodies evolved over thousands of years to respond and adapt to a very different set of circumstances. The industrialization and modernity, the rise of technology, screens, the amount of information we receive in one day is hundreds of times the amount of information that someone received in their lifetime just 100 years ago. So our environment has changed so rapidly, and our physiology is just catching up. And because of that, our body has actually developed really intelligent adaptations to cope with the chronic stress that we're constantly being bombarded with, whether it's noise, screens, lights, just the pressure of having to work a 9-to-5 job every day. And so my point here is that whatever you feel like is wrong with you or messed up or something you need to fix, actually, it's likely an incredibly intelligent adaptation of your body to deal with the stress of this environment. And when I really started to realize this, it just helped me release a lot of shame, of guilt, of pressure on myself to be always trying to change, always trying to improve myself in some way. And I want to take a little detour to talk a bit about the autonomic nervous system. So this is the part of the nervous system that's governed by your vagus nerve. It's the biggest nerve in your body. It runs from your brain through your heart, your lungs, your whole digestive system. In fact, there are more nerve endings in your gut than your brain. And this is the part of our body that governs a lot of the automatic processes. So things that happen outside of our conscious control. And this was a really smart evolutionary move by nature, because by automating a lot of these processes, we freed up an incredible amount of brain space to make art, collaborate, build complex societies. So the autonomic nervous system, I believe, is sort of like the foundation of human flourishing and complexity. But also, the way that it works can sometimes lead to challenges. So the autonomic nervous system has two main modes. One, sympathetic fight or flight response. You may have heard this, which is what happens when you feel some kind of threat in your environment, where you feel like something may be unsafe. So your heart rate quickens, your breath gets faster, your body releases stress hormones, your muscles tense, you pause digesting food because you're trying to channel all your energy to your muscles in case you need to run away or to fight. And the activity in your prefrontal cortex, that's this front part of your brain, it actually decreases when you're in a sympathetic state. So this is like the gas pedal that revs your whole body into gear. That's like, let's prepare for something to happen. Let's be ready. And on the other side of this is the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. So this is almost like your body putting the brake on that response. And your breath slows down, your heart rate slows down, you start absorbing back those stress hormones. The parasympathetic mode is really important for you to be able to digest food well, to sleep well at night. And it also brings your prefrontal cortex back online. I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a moment. But the important thing I want to note is that our bodies are actually designed for homeostasis, which is the ability to self-regulate and bring these states back into balance. Like normally, if you in a healthy system, if you get into a sympathetic mode, it's not a bad thing. Actually, your body needs that. You need to rev into gear and have energy and prepare for things sometimes. I feel like it's been demonized in the wellness world, the fight or flight response, but it's actually really necessary part of our body's functioning. It gets us up in the morning. But our bodies are designed for homeostasis. It means that if we have a big activation in sympathetic, we want to naturally come back down. We naturally want to put the brakes on that, come back into a flow. And balance isn't static. Just like I was saying before, it's not like there's some state in your nervous system that's perfectly regulated or stable that we're trying to achieve. Your body is always in flux and it's always regulating all of these functions, always regulating and rebalancing all of these things. And the thing that I want to point out that's really cool about breath is that breath is the only function connected to the autonomic nervous system that happens unconsciously and that you can consciously control. So, in other words, all of these other things, no matter how hard you think about it, I can't tell my body, please produce this exact amount of cortisol. That would be optimal for me today. Like, no, you cannot tell your body that consciously. All of these things just happen. Breath is the only one of these processes that you can actually consciously control. And what's so cool about that is that when you shift the way you breathe, you can also influence all these other things. So while you can't tell your heart, please beat at this exact beat per minute, that would be the most healthy for me, please. You can change your breath. And through that, change how your heart is beating, change the amount of stress hormones in your body, change even which parts of your brain are online and being used. And so breath is really, really, really a powerful, powerful tool for connecting with our body and for, yes, influencing our body, but also to receive signals about what's going on in our body. So it's not, I used to say breath is like the remote control of your nervous system, but I don't like that metaphor anymore because it sounds very top down and hierarchical, like you're controlling your breath. And I really like to see it more like a feedback loop. We can notice, oh, our breath is a little quick. Maybe I'm feeling stressed out about something. Maybe this is a moment where I can adjust that. Do I really need to be in this state right now? So through our breath, we can actually be in relationship, not just with our breath, but all of these different aspects of our physiology, which is incredibly powerful. Also, I realize that I'm sharing a lot of information. So if anyone has a question or anything like that, you're welcome to write in the chat or wave your hand on Zoom to let me know. One more little nerdy neuroscience thing. When you're in a state of stress, when I say stress, I mean chronic sympathetic activation. So it's not necessarily stress or a bad thing if you get a little worked up and you're able to come back into balance, into homeostasis. What's happened to most of us in modern society is we're in a state of chronic stress where our bodies are being bombarded by all these stimuli that feel unsafe or threatening in different ways. And we're chronically in this state of sympathetic activation, which makes it so much harder for us to think clearly because this deactivates the PFC, which is this front part of your brain. It's what differentiates humans from all animals. we are the only one that have such developed PFC, and it governs empathy, collaboration, creativity, impulse control, working memory, decision making, emotional regulation, future planning. So when we're in a state of chronic stress, it's so much harder to do the things that we know are good for us. It's so much harder to have empathy for other people, to be creative, to come up with solutions. So it's so much easier to feel stuck when we are in a place of chronic stress, especially because when you're in this heightened state, it's a survival state. Your body feels under threat. And you're more likely to perceive, you're on the lookout for threats. So you're more likely to perceive anything new, any change as a threat, which means like trying to start a new habit, trying to quit a habit, anything that's different than what's allowed us to survive so far can feel like a threat and be a lot harder um, to actually move forward with when you're in a state of chronic stress. So I say all this because, oh, does someone have a question? Okay. I say all this because I know that we all know on one level that we're really chronically stressed by modern society, but I think we don't fully appreciate how deeply it's impacting us and impacting our ability. And we take on a lot of the blame and the shame of our life, of our patterns, of our habits, um, as if it's a personal failing, when it's actually our bodies trying to regulate itself. So if you have a coping strategy like zoning out and scrolling on your phone or overeating, it's some way that your body has learned over time that, oh, that can maybe decrease some of this stress. And over time, that neural pathway gets grooved in your brain. And it's really your body trying to regulate yourself from the impacts of the environment that we're in. So I really want to, yeah, relieve any feeling that there's something wrong with you or that you have something to be ashamed of because of whatever habits or patterns or coping strategies you may have. Because actually, your body is doing something really wise to try and cope with an environment that it's really not ideal and that we're trying to adapt to the best of our ability. So, the good news is that through your breath, you can actually strengthen your vagal tone, which is a measure of the health of your vagus nerve, and shift your nervous system in just a few minutes. You can really change the way that your body responds to stress. You can change the way that you metabolize stress and recover from those sympathetic peaks so that you come back down into homeostasis more quickly. And there are many, many things you can do that help with this: exercise, sauna, cold plunge, walking in nature, listening to soothing sounds and music can be really helpful, singing and humming. So there are so many different practices. And I love breath work because it's the most simple and effective and accessible. You don't need equipment. You don't need to be in a particular place. You don't need special clothes or anything. You can just do it wherever you are, with your breath. So, with that, I want to invite us to do a breath practice. And I wanted to see if there are any questions or reflections before we get into the practice. You're welcome to come off mute and share something, something that stood out to you, something new that you learned, or a question that you have. Okay, let's get into the practice then. And this practice is also going to be, we're going to start standing because we're going to do warrior breath practice. And warrior breath practice is a really foundational tool in the Kriya Yoga system because it strengthens the nervous system and it also digests the energy of stress in our body. Cool. Let's do it. So let's stand up. And we're going to do 3 different types of warrior breath. The first, we'll step our feet wide, bring our hands up like this. So hands into fists, elbows about parallel to the shoulders. And we're going to inhale twice through the nose and inhale twice through the mouth, palms open. And you don't need to make this specific sound, but it is a strong, forceful breath. So you want to feel like you're breathing in with force and breathing out with power as well. So as we do this, we're going to squat down, feel that strong warrior foundation, feel your feet on the earth, bring the arms up, and we'll begin. Good. Keep going. Breathe deeper. Two more. Good. Straighten the legs. Palms open. Relax the arms. If it feels good, you can place one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest. And take a deep breath in and out through the nose. Deep, slow breaths. And this part is just as important as the breathing and the moving with speed and power. This is the moment where we train our body to come back down into a state of rest and relaxation after a more intense activation. Slow, deep breaths. Good. Second warrior breath round. Slightly different movements this time, same breath pattern. So we're going to breathe in and squat down and gather. Breathe in again, reach the arms up, and then breathe out, gather, and breathe out again, release. Breathe in, gather, breathe in, up, breathe out, gather, breathe out, release. Breathe in, gather, breathe in, reach up, breathe out, and breathe out. Good. Keep it going. Breathe in, a little quicker. Powerful breath. Any agitation, any anxiety, just channel it into your breath, into your movement. Feel the strength of your body, feel your feet on the earth, feel the power, feel the energy in your breath. One more. Deep, slow breath. Coming back to that center. Feeling your feet on the earth. As a reminder, if you feel slightly lightheaded, that's completely normal. It's your body bringing in fresh oxygen. But if it ever gets too much for you, you can always take a break and come back here. Slow, deep breath. Good. And we'll do one more warrior breath practice. practice. And for this one, we're gonna squat down, breathe in twice, gather, hold the breath for a moment, and then one long exhale through the mouth as we release and straighten the legs. So we gather, 1, 2, hold, and exhale. 1, 2, breathe in through the nose, hold, and exhale, release. Good. Filling yourself up with fresh oxygen, fresh energy. Letting go of any stress, any tension as you exhale. Breathe in, energize, and breathe out. Empty, release, make space. Breathe in, hold, and exhale, empty. Good. Find your own rhythm. Let's do 3 more. Really make them count. Deepest breaths. Empty every last drop of air out. Last one. And release. Deep, slow breaths. You can step your feet to a more comfortable distance if you like. You can place one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest. Coming back to this slow, deep wave-like breath. Breathing into the belly first, then the lower lungs, then the upper chest. And breathing out from the chest, the lungs, the belly. Slow wave-like breath. And this is the breath that we can connect with any time in our daily life. If we feel like we need to invite in a little more parasympathetic, a little more rest and digest. That slow, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic. So again, what we're doing with these warrior practices, it's the rapid inhales activate the sympathetic. It brings our body into this state of intensity. And then we train ourselves to recover, to come back to parasympathetic, to break out of the pattern of chronic stress and into the capacity to align with our body's natural movement towards homeostasis, towards balance. Slow, deep breath. Good. We're going to start to shake a little bit. Shake your hands, shake your head, shake your whole body, shake your legs, one leg and then the other. Anything that came up in that practice, anything that I brought to the surface, just shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. Don't overthink it. Just allow your body to shake, to move. Maybe you start to get really creative with it. Maybe it turns into more of a dance. Just whatever you feel like doing, let yourself do it. Maybe you want to flutter your lips. Make a silly sound, make a silly face. Trust your body's intelligence. Whatever you feel like you need to do. Maybe you need to lie down on the floor or move really slow. And maybe you need to move really fast and just like get a lot of energy out. Take deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth for a deeper release. Stay with it. You can close your eyes and go into your own experience, really tuning into what your body needs. And in the next few breaths, we're going to start to slow it down. If you feel like you really still have more to get out, stay with it. And in about a minute or so, we're going to start to make our way back. When you're ready, you can come back to stillness, finding that slow, deep breath, one hand on your body, one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. Coming back to that slow wave-like breath. And ironically, becoming unshakable actually requires shaking a lot, shaking out all the stress, moving, dancing with the energy that's here. In the Kriya Yoga tradition, my teacher calls this practice freedom movement. And it's really just trusting your body's intelligence, that whatever stress is stored, whatever energy is stuck, that the body knows what to do. If you look at animals in the wild, if they experience like a stressful encounter, you'll notice them shake themselves off. And this is something that's built into our DNA, where we're wired for it. And so a lot of Kriya Yoga is really just making space for our bodies to natural process to unfold, and doing certain techniques and certain practices to make space for that. Yeah, someone was like, is this why my cat does zoomies after going to the vet? I don't know what zoomies are, but I want to say yes. It sounds like your cat's way of like shaking it off and regulating after that experience. When you feel ready, you can come back down to sit. And I want to take a moment, like before we get back into content, to just close your eyes, draw your attention inwards. If it feels good to place hands on your body somewhere, it can be anywhere that you feel like you need a little extra support today, maybe your neck. And I want to just take a moment of gratitude for our bodies. So I know for some of you, this might feel hard to connect to. I know I've definitely been in that place. But maybe you can find one small part of you somewhere in there that feels appreciation for your body, for the natural intelligence that's there. And silently, in your own way, just take a moment to thank our bodies. Say thank you, body, for everything that you've survived, for everything that you have moved through, for all the highly intelligent and incredible ways you've helped me cope and adapt to really unideal situations. Thank you so much. And I'm here now to be a friend to you, to be an ally, to support your natural intelligence rather than fighting against you. If that feels authentic to you, you can say something like that to yourself, whatever words feel true or resonant. And in the next few breaths, we're going to come back together as a group. So take your time. If there maybe check in with your body if there are any stretches or gentle movements that you need. Maybe a little neck roll, shoulder stretch. Give yourself this moment to not just say the words, but to really do the honoring of listening to your body and what it is asking for in this moment. And in the next few breaths, we're going to come back together as a group. And if anyone feels ready or open to it, I'd love to invite one or two shares about how you feel after doing that practice. I'd love to hear someone speak out loud if anyone here is brave enough to do that. You can also write it in the chat, but I'm curious, yeah, what stood out to you? What are you taking away from that practice?
For me, feeling my body a lot. So it's something that I do, but it's always, I haven't done it today, you know? So it was very nice to just thank it for just taking me through so much. And, you know, we are so it's nice to have this package with me. And I just need to take care of it more. That's what really was going through my mind is thank you for taking care of me. And I want to take care of you more.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm definitely feeling like more release and grounded after like that warrior breath and just like intentional time to just shake and release.
Mm.
And what did you say your teacher called it? Freedom.
Freedom movement.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was really lovely.
Thank you. And I see Cole in the chat. Hi, Cole. It's been a long time. Um, Activating and opening the feeling of more flow and giving more attention to parts that need to relax tension. Beautiful. Thank you. I really love these practices because I find this tradition to be a really beautiful blend of doing some very intentional things to activate and strengthen your body in really specific ways, to move energy, and also the space to really feel what's going on there. I think sometimes practices can move either too far in either extreme, like we're doing this particular technique and we're rigidly doing this, and you have to override your body signals to do the 11 minutes of it or whatever. Or it can be so fluid and like just do whatever you feel that you don't actually like strengthen and you don't actually build a foundation. So I really like having that balance. And I want to quickly share two more pitfalls and then close with some of strategies and actions you can take these practices into your life after this. Second pitfall I've definitely fallen into that I hear a lot is I just need more willpower and discipline. I feel like when we're stuck in this mindset, it's actually a very colonial mentality of my body is a problem that I need to fix. I need to just have the willpower to push through and force myself to do this. But this just creates this fight relationship with your body. It doesn't acknowledge the impacts of chronic or environmental stress. And if you don't do what you set out to do, it feels like a personal failure, which I feel like leads to a lot of depression, isolation, stress, and anxiety. So, like, willpower, I think, is like the biggest fallacy of personal development. I don't think it works at all. And when we know willpower isn't enough, we can actually set realistic goals for ourselves. We can do little by little, we can have compassion, and we can actually build the support system that we need in our life to befriend our bodies and enlist our body as an ally to take care of us and take care of them, rather than being in this fight against ourselves. So willpower and discipline, if you're like, this is why I really want to offer an alternative to these New Year programs that are like, 21-day challenge, like new year, new you, let's go, like with that kind of willpower energy. And yes, I am offering a 21 days of breathwork program, but I want to invite in a really different energy that's about creating the structure and support to make real lasting changes in your life rather than forcing your way through dominating your body, without actually listening to the intelligence that's really there. And then the last one that I've definitely fallen into is I need to regulate myself alone. I think also, especially in, as someone who used to pride myself on like being really calm and collected all the time, like there's this narrative in these wellness spaces of like, oh yeah, what we're going for is perfectly regulated, and that's everyone's individual responsibility to do that for themselves. But the truth is, we're all interconnected. What you're feeling right now, even though this is a Zoom space, I can feel, and that affects me on a very biological, chemical level. We're social beings, we're wired for connection. And social connection, hugs, they prompt your brain to release oxytocin, which reduces stress. So, like, one of the biggest things you can do to support your nervous system is actually to build a community and have relationships with people in your life who can support you. And like the supportive community is everything to help you shift out of this shame and to feel the support and encouragement to stay committed to the person who you want to be. So those are all the pitfalls that I hope we can avoid falling into. And I want to shift into talking about some real actions you can take to like bring these practices into your daily life. Are you ready to do that? Give me an emoji if you, or a thumbs up. That's also good. Cool. Thank you for being with me. So these are the 3 strategies. Daily practice, a little bit every day, even if you just do, well, I'll talk more about it in a second. Second is compassion. So having a loving relationship with your inner world and realizing that part of that is acknowledging the natural intelligence within your body. And the third is obviously community. So daily practice, this is like, there's just no way around this. I, for so long, was searching for, if I just do another 10-day Vipassana retreat, if I just do another plant medicine ceremony, like maybe that will just like change everything and I'll finally be the dream version of myself that I've always wanted to be. And I really learned how much of an illusion that is and how much that is actually a product of capitalism, trying to sell us quick fixes and this idea that, oh, if we just buy one more thing, then like that will change our lives. And there's no substitute really for showing up little by little every day for your own body, for your own breath, and doing the kind of practices that we just did. It strengthens your nervous system, builds your vagal tone, it helps you digest stress, And it also helps you build a relationship with your body. It's a relationship also of listening to what's needed. And so it's not like the other thing that I used to do often, which was like not do any practices. And then suddenly when I was stressed out, be like, okay, now it's time to do yoga. Um, but like actually, you need to show up every day. Otherwise, it's like just having a friend that you just call when you need something from them. And that's not a great friendship. You want to be investing in that relationship every day, all the time, so that yes, when shit hits the fan, your breath, your body will be there to support you. But there's no substitute to that daily practice. And it's also, like I said, doing the right practices. And I really love the practices from this tradition because they really cultivate that balance of strengthening with listening, of like mastery and influencing your state with awareness and being in relationship with your body and your breath. And so I want to share a little bit more about this tradition. Like I said, Kriya is a Sanskrit word that means an action that leads to evolution. And one of the principles is that evolution is always happening. Life is always evolving, adapting, and growing. But sometimes part of that evolutionary process is getting stuck in what's called samskaras in Sanskrit, which I find to be a really helpful term. If you think about those repetitive loops of thinking, behavior, things that feel compulsive or unproductive, they often actually were very useful adaptations that happened earlier in our life that helped us survive in some way. But now maybe they're not so well adapted to our environment. So that's the concept of samskaras from this tradition. And so the process of Kriya, of practicing Kriya yoga, of this philosophy is liberating your mind and body from these samskaras, these loops that were a helpful adaptation at one point, but the environment, your circumstances have changed, and you need to evolve in a different way. So they use breath and movement in really intentional ways to activate your body's natural capacity to evolve and adapt, because the intelligence within you wants to free yourself from samskaras, wants to move into the next phase. And so it's just about giving yourself that little bit of support and space consistently every day so that that shift can unfold naturally with ease. And I want to say something else about Kriya, because someone asked me this before, is it's not a religion, it's a philosophy that did emerge in the Himalayas in what's now India. It therefore did influence a lot of other culture and spiritual traditions in India and in Asia. But it's not a religion. And I actually have people in my community practicing who come from all faith backgrounds: Christians, Jewish, Muslims, Hindus, people who are atheist or agnostic or have their own unique beliefs. So I believe that Kriya is a philosophy that really fits well with any other religious tradition that you might be a part of, and provides like a really beautiful complement to a lot of them, because it really specifically focuses on the process of liberation and what that means and how you can live into that in your daily life. And so if you want to join us in the Year of the Fire Horse program, where we do 21 days of practice, it's 20 minutes a day of Kriya practices. There are about 4 different techniques in the set, and you'll be making your own personalized practice plan to fit this into your daily life at a time that works well for you. And there are guided videos and other resources, but ultimately you'll be doing the practice on your own in your own way. And I'll support you to make that as easy as it can be, because that's ultimately my goal, is for you to have these tools, these practices that you can use every day for the rest of your life. And it's something that you don't need equipment. You don't need to be in a special place to do. You can do it anywhere, anytime. It's just your body. It's just your breath. And my goal is that these 21 days, it's just the beginning with the structure to support you, but then this is a relationship that you can have for life. And we are running short on time, so we're going to return to this practice at the end. But for now, if you want to take action right away and don't feel called to join that program, I suggest that you choose one practice from this workshop that we did. the warrior breaths, the shaking, the connecting with your body and listening and giving gratitude, the clearing breaths we did at the beginning. Pick one and just do that every day for a few minutes for the next week and see how you feel. And you can, I'm going to send out the replay so you can also come back and listen to me guiding it if that's helpful. The other resource I have that's free is I have the Breath Connection online portal. It's on Sutra, and there's a ton of guided practices on there that you can get for free. You can pick one. They're all tagged and filtered for different things. So what's also really cool about Kriya is that there are different techniques for different types of things. So you need to move through anger. There's a great practice for that. You need to, you want to work on anxiety. There's a great practice for that. So if you go on the platform, you can search and filter by like what specific thing you want to work on and do a practice that's for that. And I'll make sure you guys get the link to that as well. So those are like, if there's anything that you take away from this 90 minutes, if you actually do this every day for a week, like that's going to make a real lasting difference in your experience. And hopefully it's not just a week, hopefully it's longer. The second is compassion. So building that loving relationship with ourselves. And I want actually us all to say this out loud. I think we're all on mute, so we can do it together. You can place your hand on your body. One hand, wherever feels good. I like both hands on the heart. Just take a deep breath in together to connect. And a deep breath out. And we'll breathe in and out. And this time, breathe in to speak and say it with me. I hereby release myself from blame and shame. From this moment on, I promise to treat myself with curiosity, love, and kindness. And take one more deep breath and really let that sink in. And of course, that sounds really nice. And you can release your hands and come back to the group if you're ready. But of course, it's a lifelong journey to really embody this. It's a practice. Of course, we'll all have self-defeating thoughts or anything like that come up all the time. So it's an ongoing practice. And in the program, we'll be doing the 20 minutes every day, which is an opportunity to practice observer consciousness and really like noticing the thought patterns that come up and having compassion for them. I also offer a lot of journaling and other exercises that you can do on your own to explore and get to know these different thought streams, these different narratives, and different rituals and lessons as well that are optional that help you connect with more compassion for yourself. And so the practice I really love for this is internal family systems. There's also a really good book by the founder of that modality called No Bad Parts by Dr. Richard Schwartz. I'll send it out in the follow-up email as well. So if starting working with a IFS therapist to build this kind of self-compassion isn't accessible for you now, reading the book is actually a really good start. And I also really like this journaling exercise that's inspired by that system. So you'll get the slides and you can work on this on your own too, if that feels good. And finally, community. I think we all know the value of community. And I think that the level of isolation that we experience in our current modern Western society is actually really unusual in the grand scheme of human history. And so we're all figuring out how to deal with, these changes that arose from industrialization, from modernity, and technology and capitalism, and we're all figuring it out together. And I'm in this exploration with you of how to build a community that's really authentic, where we support each other, where people also have skin in the game, where we, are invested in showing up in that way. And so that's really what I want to practice together with you in the Year of the Fire Horse program, 21 days of breath work. In our actual sessions, we do a lot of timed shares and deep listening to build that relational capacity. You also will be in little smaller pods outside of the bigger group, which will give you a nice little group to connect with and go deeper about your process. There's a community chat. If there's enough people who join who live in New York, I may also do a little in-person gathering as well, as pop-up group practices. So while you'll be doing the practice every day on your own, you'll also have the opportunity to join guided group practices here and there and feel that energy of everyone practicing together, which I definitely felt today. And that also helps me feel more tapped in and connected even on Zoom. So for now, if you're not ready to jump in with us, I suggest finding an accountability buddy. If you have a friend, maybe who's here or is into this kind of thing, and you want to like do 5 minutes of breath practice every day for a week, enlist them to come do it with you and have a call with them every week. I actually have 2 accountability buddies in my life right now, like for different particular topics that I'm working on. And it's so nourishing to just be able to have a chat with a friend who's going through the same things. And I think a lot of the time in our culture, we default to like spending time going out to eat or having surface level conversations, and really enlisting your friend or family member to do something meaningful with you can really be powerful for your relationship, as well as um, you know like supporting you in whatever process you're going through. And alternately, if that's too much of a commitment, you can also just really make sure you go to hang out with friends or a community gathering at least once a week. I think that's so valuable for our mental health as well. So those are some actions that I hope feel inspiring, at least one of them. And I want to share a bit more about this program before we do a closing practice, because it's really like where all of these principles come into practice. And like, quick disclaimer, this isn't going to be the best solution for you if you are struggling with a serious addiction, if you have really intense trauma that hasn't been addressed, or really intense mental health issues and you don't have the support of a licensed therapist. It's not a replacement for that. But if you are, relatively healthy in your life, you're just ready to break free from some tired patterns and coping mechanisms, you want support to navigate change and uncertainty with more ease, and ready to build a daily practice and actually have accountability and support to do that, to connect with your body and breath and be part of a community of people who are all doing this together and feel that collective field, then this is the right place for you. And like I said, the 3 core elements are, the main element is doing that 20 minutes of practice every day and having the support to figure out how to build it into your life. And I have a really specific process for that. There are weekly live Zoom calls where we practice together, where we talk about all the things that are coming up, where I offer other tools and techniques and rituals to connect deeper with your body and your breath. And there's a whole online resource library as well with the community chat. It's all accessible on the Sutra app, so you can get all the replays and everything on your phone. And we start March 1st. So it's coming up, and it's really to harness the energy of the beginning of spring, this new year, and for us to all be in that collective practice container together. If you're interested in joining, the price is $275 for the program. I know that life coaching and other kinds of personal development can easily run you into the thousands. Trust me, I've spent that money on them myself. And if they work and they really support you, it can be more than worth it. But maybe because I'm Asian, I just love a good deal. And so I really do think this is a good deal for the amount of support and resources, and really for creating something that I hope will be a foundation that you can use for the rest of your life. And if you want to sign up because you are here and you brought your energy and shared your presence in our practice, I want to give you a special gift for the new year. It's not a red packet of cash like we used to get as kids. It is a one-on-one consultation with me where I can hear more about some specific pattern or thing that you're struggling with or want support with, and can offer specific practices that are tailored for you. Like I said, there are hundreds of different Kriya practices. They can all work on different things, and it can be really helpful to know like what's a very good fit for your body, your nervous system, and your patterns. So if you want to sign up by Friday at 12, you'll get this Lunar New Year gift from me. And I want to close us out actually by coming into a practice together. So let's take a moment to sit well, shoulders above the hips. You can close your eyes. Take a deep breath. We'll bring our hands together into heart center, making this gesture that's so significant in many Eastern cultures of coming into unity, into connection, bringing all of ourselves, all of our sides into harmony. We're going to do blooming lotus. So as we breathe in, we'll reach our arms up towards the sky overhead. And as we breathe out, we're going to open our arms out into a beautiful lotus shape. And you can be pretty creative with it. Breathing in, reaching up, growing tall. Breathing out, allowing your hands to bloom into a lotus shape. Breathing in, reaching, growing. And breathing out, blossoming. Moving with your breath. It's that deep, slow, wave-like breath in and out through your nose. And let it be a dance. Let it be your own unique expression of this movement. The lotus is deeply symbolic. It grows really deep roots in the mud. And from all the mud, all the ickiness, it creates fertile soil for growth. The lotus reminds us that no matter what we've been through, no matter what challenges we're facing, we can always alchemize them into beauty. We'll do 3 more. Really feel yourself receiving the wisdom of the lotus, integrating it into your body through your breath, through your movement. We'll close by bringing our hands together in front of the heart for a moment of gratitude to all my teachers, Anandji, Sri Yukteswar, Babaji of the Himalayan Kriya Yoga tradition, so many others from many different cultures around the world, but today particularly honoring the mountains of the Himalayas, where so much of this wisdom arose. And I really do believe that it was a transmission from the earth, from the mountains, giving gratitude also to the people who've lived there for so many generations and cultivated this knowledge, the land there, and passed on this wisdom for the benefit of all beings. Thank you. And with this sense of reverence and gratitude, I want to close with a poem. Breath is not just a way to de-stress, to help us press on and prop up this profoundly sick society. Our breath is not just a tool for productivity, to squeeze more profit from our tired bodies. Our breath is a divine thread, and we breathe to weave ourselves back into the tapestry of life. We breathe to remember that we are part of something so much larger. Each breath is a doorway into the throbbing heart of existence, a fragment of the infinite. One breath contains lifetimes of hidden fractal codes, and we breathe to unlock ourselves. We breathe to grieve, to feel the pain our bones have held for centuries. We breathe to set them free. In fact, we breathe for the liberation of all beings, for we are not free until we are all free. We breathe to receive the blessings of this wide expanse. We breathe for our mothers, our fathers, for all those who can't. We breathe for strength, for hope, for inspiration. We breathe to dissolve the walls of isolation. We breathe until the chorus of our lungs crumbles corrupted temples and fells all false gods. We breathe because breath is a spell, and we can use it to heal, to make our world well. We breathe for the rivers and for the trees. We breathe to align with our true frequency. We breathe to restore the earth to harmony and carve a new pathway for humanity. We breathe because I truly believe that one breath can change the course of history, can help us shape a new reality, can transform us from individuals to community. Our breath is a map, and it's also the territory. It's how we start to write a new story. One breath to begin and one breath to end. Your breath is your one lifelong friend, a pulse that pulls you ever further in. So let your breath be your offering, your prayer, your prophecy, an act of divine creation, a spiral wave of inspiration, soul reclamation. This is more than just respiration. This is breath connection.